Hi, my name's Amanda Wynne. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a horror writer, and I'm excited to create this space to share my work with you. In this episode, I'll be reading you the first two chapters of my horror novel Flatcoat, published in summer 2024, sponsored by Pen to Print and New Generation Publishing as part of the Pen to Print Book Challenge. I hope you enjoy. Flatcoat by Amanda Wynne. Chapter 1, Countryside Joys. I hate this. Doll crawled the car up the hill. She clung tightly to the steering wheel, sweating through her dress despite the crisp November afternoon, trying to keep up with the van in front. Two restless, flat-coated retrievers fussed in the car boot behind her, beyond the folded seats piled with bags. Both dogs were black, one 2 years old, one 9. They stood almost to roof height in their twin cages. Crumbling brick walls and scraggly hedgerows nipped at the car doors. Doll made slow progress round a blind corner at the crest of the hill. The road fell into a sharp dip, leaving the car and her stomach briefly airborne. The road dropped down to a puddle-covered potholed remnant of an old railway line, then headed skywards again. The van up ahead swept out of view into a copse of ivy-coloured trees. The younger of the dogs, the 2-year-old Ebony, barked in protest as the car engine strained up the hill. She clattered at the cage with a trim and shiny forepaw. Lola, frizzy and tinged grey-brown in her old age, knocked her shoulder against the side of her cage, a warning to Ebony to curb her fussing. She moved so clumsily that the cages shifted and crashed together. Pallid-faced, with her hair plastered to her tight shoulders, Doll heard the crash and barks of protest. She was loath to take her eyes off the single-lane road. Usually her husband Matt drove, but today he was in the hired van up ahead. She was left to strain up the slope herself, with live cargo. "Settle down, please." She pushed back her fringe with a sweaty palm, leaving parts of it standing up above her forehead. The dogs responded with another clash. "Stop it!" Doll risked a look over her shoulder. Above the bags, Ebony's dark eyes looked contrite. Lola continued to fuss. Doll turned back to the road. The number plate of the van in front was impossibly close, and getting closer. She stamped on the brake. The cages lurched against the luggage, the dogs howled, but she was in time. No impact came. Daylight, however slight, remained between the car bumper and the back of the van. She sat, wide-eyed, panting along with the dogs. The van began to move again. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Okay. The van vanished around another bend. She positioned her feet and looked up at the curving slope ahead. The gradient was gentle, like most of the Essex countryside they had passed through so far. But the angle felt impossible with the weight of the dogs and the bags tugging the car back. She overdid the accelerator and underdid the clutch, but the car began to inch forwards again. As she slowly rounded the bend, she saw a young hoodie-clad man closing a farm gate at the side of the road. Another open gate stood opposite. Fields stretched in both directions, bisected by hedgerows. The young man nodded his head as she passed. The cuffs of his hoodie were frayed and faded. Likewise, his Wellingtons had lost their original colour behind a coating of mud. Still, Doll recognised the expensive branding of both. His nose and cheeks were mottled red. Doll managed a weak grimace in response to his nod. Through the open gate she saw a green tractor trundling away towards a cluster of outbuildings. The smell of whatever was in those outbuildings seeped through the car windows and slid down the back of Doll's throat. She screwed up her nose and willed herself not to breathe. A swirl of birds took to the pale sky above the fields. On the horizon, a lone dead oak tree stretched up its bare fingers to catch them. Twigs squeaked down the side of the car. Doll jerked the steering wheel quickly to stay on the road. Trees enveloped the view again. Doll and Matt drove on, through a grey tunnel of bare branches, until the trees once again gave way to sky. Chapter 2. Your Friendly Neighbourhood Agent. The lane ended in a rectangle of tarmac. Doll pulled up to park beside the van, beside their new home. It stood in a wide piece of grassland. A lazy haziness shone yellow in the grass in the low sun, but the dark grey stone of the building seemed to absorb the light. The house still looked like what it had been, a church, but it wore the costume of aspirational renovation. The front door was accessed through a white-framed conservatory extension with glass-panelled roofs and walls. The conservatory led into the kitchen, from which the rest of the house was accessed. A newly installed door at the side of the kitchen opened out onto a raised wraparound porch that ran most of the length of the house. Ornate outdoor chairs and tables stood waiting. The door on the other side of the house, original to the building, opened straight onto the grass. The new ceramic tiles on the main building had yet to weather into their environment, unlike the lichen-mottled churchyard walls and the gravestones beyond. No neighbouring properties, no obvious wildlife, just a few lazy flies over the grass, and the gentle swaying of the woodland beyond. Doll exhaled very slowly. She switched off the engine and slumped forwards. Her muscles stretched and twinged in gratitude as she rested her elbows on the steering wheel, head between her arms. Behind her, the dogs whined softly in their cages. Matt tapped on the window. Doll jerked her head up. "You all right there, sweet?" Matt was somehow glowing rather than bedraggled after 3 hours behind the unfamiliar wheel of the hired van. "I'm okay," Doll croaked, cracking open the door. "Want me to take the dogs out?" He leant on the partially open door, reaching out to pat down Doll's fringe from where it stuck out above her head. Doll smiled. "Please." She looked around with bleary eyes at the grass and the woodland beyond. "Have them on the leads for now," she called as Matt opened the boot. At the sight of Matt and the slowly opening door, the dogs went crazy. Ebony attempted to pinwheel in her cage. Lola barked as loudly as her old lungs would let her. "You sure? They've been cooped up a while." "Humour me." "All right," said Matt, pausing as he tried to work out how to attach a lead to the furry black tornado that was Ebony. Doll pulled the driver's door closed and rested back against the car seat. She watched the dogs walking her husband briskly towards the trees. Sighing, Doll pressed her head against the headrest and closed her eyes. She luxuriated in the golden sunlit glow that persisted under her eyelids and the sound of silence all around her. A shadow fell over her eyes. She opened them to find a curly-haired woman leant over the windscreen, waving. Where'd you come from?" Doll mumbled through the glass. She couldn't see another car, and definitely hadn't heard one. "No," the lady said cheerfully through the windscreen. She came round and tugged the door open, thrusting her hand towards Doll. "I'm Martha." "Oh." Doll took the offered hand and tried to smile. "I'm Doll." "Dolores Elga?" Doll nodded. "It's wonderful to see you here at last," Martha beamed, gripping Doll's hand between both of hers. "I'm your local estate agent, here on behalf of Mr. Dalton." She was a slight lady, getting on in years, short and thin and in danger of being carried away by a stiff breeze, yet her handshake was painfully strong and persistent. "Remember, we spoke on the phone." After a pause and with considerable effort, Doll added, "It's nice to meet you." "Yes." Martha's smile grew bigger. How are you here? Where's your car?" Doll extracted her hand from Martha's grip as she moved to get out of the seat. "Walked," said Martha, holding on to Doll's limp arm to help her stand. Doll tried to flinch away, preferring to keep her sweat to herself. Martha clung on regardless. "Silver Tree's a mile or so through the wood path. That's how folks used to get to services here at the church. If you want the road, you'll have to go all the way down to town in Marinham, then back up again by the sea wall." Doll nodded weakly. "Did you see my husband?" "No, love. Did he go off walking?" Doll nodded. Her neck twinged. Dogs needed a bit of a run. "Well, I can't wait to meet them," said Martha. "How about a cup of tea in the kitchen until they get back? I've set you up a nice little welcome package, you know. Some nice local treats to enjoy." Doll risked another nod. She rubbed at the side of her neck with her knuckles, catching skin and hair in the diamonds of her ring. "Follow me, my love." Doll piled as many of the bag straps over her shoulders as she could, and shambled slowly after the light-footed and unencumbered Martha. And we'll leave it there for today, just going into chapter 3. So those were the first two chapters of Flatcoat with Matt and Doll and their two dogs, Ebony and Lola, arriving at the converted church that's going to become their home. And a nice, serene start before the horror to come. If you'd like to read Flatcoat, the book is available from Amazon and other online retailers. If you do read it, it would be great if you could let me know what you think in a comment on Amazon reviews or on Goodreads or just in the comments below. And if you prefer to listen rather than to watch, my content is available in the podcast Amanda Has Haunted Horror. And you can learn more about my work on my website, amandawynne.com. It's been great to have you. Happy hunting and see you again soon.